Every time somebody asks me that question, I'm always proud to say that I'm the son of the former Vice President of Liberia, Dr. Harry Moniba. I truly believe I'm proud of the service he gave to the Liberian people. So I always start off with that. But I'm a person who, I've been blessed throughout my life in many ways. I've been fortunate to have academic scholarships. I've been blessed to have two masters and a PhD. I've also served the people of Liberia for the last 15 years in a variety of capacities. So when you look at, I've worked at the Liberian Embassy in Washington, D.C. I've worked at our permanent mission to the United Nations in New York. I've also served as a consultant to the World Bank, a consultant to the African Development Bank. I've served as a consultant to the United Nations. And then in addition to that, of course, in service to my country of Liberia, I've served as one of the youngest ministers of state throughout portfolio in Liberia's history. I was the youngest cabinet member under the previous administration. I was also the youngest chairman of LEC, Liberia Electricity Corporation, where we were fortunate enough to have finalized the construction for the Mount Coffee Hydro to negotiate the $250 million for that. I also oversaw the delivery unit, which oversaw all of the major infrastructure in this country. So from 2014 to 2018, I oversaw and was responsible for all of the major infrastructure in this country. So
in other words, you are not a novice to public service.
I'm not a novice to public service.
Now, you've now projecting yourself, if I'll put it that way, as the most educated presidential candidate.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Now, so what has we talk about your service at LEC, but what has trickled this decision? Yes, I know you are not a novice to public service, but what has trickled your decision now to wanting to become president of the country?
It's a lot of different reasons. First, we have to look at the country we have, and we have to agree that Liberia is not good enough for anybody who lives in this country right now. When you look at so many different things,
Liberia is not
good enough for anybody who is living in this country right now.
What are you saying? How do you explain that for Mount Musu, who's deep into Grand Cape Mount, for Omar Wiadi and Grand Jira or Grand Crew to know that? To understand you. How do you clearly state that?
I don't have to explain it to them because they're feeling it. The schools they're sending their children to, they are seeing it. They are feeling it. The hospitals that they are going to or not going to, they are feeling it. The fact that we are 176 years old tomorrow and we still talking about the Southeast Road is cut lets you know that Liberia is not good enough for anybody.
No, but why will Clarence Moniba, who knows that Liberia is not good enough for anyone to reside in, including the Sabo George who is in fact interviewing him, why would Moniba still be in the country that's not good for him?
Because this is my country.
It's not good for you to live.
No. You misunderstood me now. This country that we have,
it's not good enough.
Not good enough for the services we give to provide to Liberian people, for the education, for the healthcare, for the infrastructure, for the civil servants, for the police officers. Nothing. It has to be better. And you understand it. If you want to feel bad about Liberia, you leave the country for 1 or 2 weeks and come back. Then you will understand the state of the country we are in. So the reason I'm running for president is very simple. Because at some point, enough has to be enough. At some point, there are going to be a group of leaders. And I didn't say one. Because a lot of times people are kind of, oh, you like me, I will do this. No, but there has to be a group of leaders who will come to Liberia and actually transform and change this country. They will come into leadership and actually make this country the great country that we know it is.
So you want to head that group of leaders? You want to lead them?
Absolutely.
Now, so let's look into what you have on your plate or in your closet as your vision for the country.
I think as we look at how we want to transform Liberia, and the first thing I will always tell people when I'm talking about my vision is we always say in this country that we want to change the country, we want to change. So we are not going to continue to elect the same people or the same types of people and expect change. That's the first thing I'm going to tell people. But when you talk about the vision, when you talk about the policies,
no, before we go to that, we just I'm very my ears very wide open, and I like when people make a statement. I like for them to clearly explain to us. He said, if you are leading, you're not going to bring on board the same group of individuals. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is we cannot continue to elect the same people we have been elected for past years, the same type of leaders. Liberia, we have a saying in this country, right? This is my first time running. So a lot of people say, oh, but you're just coming. How do you expect change if you continue to vote for people who've been here for a long time? The country is not going to change. We have to be very clear about what we want in Liberia. If we say we want change, let's actually mean it. Let's elect people who, again, I'm blessed to say I'm educated, but it's not only book you will eat. All the Liberian people, oh yeah, you're educated, but don't book you will eat.
Let me hold you about your education. Let me hold you there. In your introduction, you indicated that you are the son of a former vice president of this country. So it means that there's absolutely no way that one can disconnect you from the legacy of your father. What sort of legacy did he leave?
And I'm so proud of the legacy he has left. And that's even the basis why I can proudly stand up and tell people of Liberia that I'm running for president. My pa always used to tell me this. He used to say, I do not have money to leave you, but I will leave you a name and legacy that you'll be proud of. Nowhere in Liberia you will ever go that you'll hear that Dr. Harry Moniba stole money, Dr. Harry Moniba killed this person. So I already understood, living in Liberia, working in Liberia, God forbid, I've been blessed. I've helped to negotiate hundreds of millions of dollars for this country, hundreds of millions of dollars. And now one single time you'll ever hear that I took brown envelope, I took 1%, 2%, never. Simply because I understood that if, God forbid, I ever did something as stupid as stealing the Liberian people money, they would not say Dr. Clarence Moniba stole money. They would say the son of Dr. Harry Moniba stole money. And God forbid I ever do that to him, because I always understood what his legacy meant to him and what his name means for him. And so as we enter public service, as we have been in public service, working for the people of Liberia, I understand that what is bigger than my name is my country. Presidents will always come and go. Right now we have a president. Before that was Ellen. Before that was Taylor. You continue on and on. But the one thing that has remained constant and the same is Liberia.
Okay.
And I always like to add to this. At some point in our history, Liberia is going to be a great country. At some point, Liberia is going to be
at the point where you're leaving?
At some point. So let it be now.
Okay, now. So you are trying to unravel your vision for our country. And you didn't go further. I wanted to, because we'll be asking about a couple of areas that, and transformation, and intervention that you'll be making as well. So let's look at your vision from a broad point, point.
So, and when I start talking about these visions, I truly want people to disengage from the politics of it. Let's actually listen to the policies that we need in this country if we want to transform this country. Let's actually look at some of the suggestions. And, I'm so proud. Listen, what we want to do, I will start from the agriculture sector, because I truly believe that is the very foundation of transforming Liberia. If we
agriculture sector,
I don't care what we do. If we continue to import rice from India, from Thailand, from China, and all those other places, we will not be able to grow this economy. We will not be able to bring down the price of food. We will not be able to increase jobs in this country. So agriculture sector is the most important thing, one of the most important things that we in Liberia can do. I always say when Liberian people, when we want rice, we go to the free port and look on the ocean looking for rice. We will never transform that way. What we need to be doing is to be going to counties like Bong and Lofa and Bapulu and Bomi and Cape Mount, the western counties, and say that y'all will grow all of the rice that the Liberian people will eat. We need to be able to go to Nimba, Granjide, and say y'all will grow cocoa, y'all will grow cassava. We go to the southeast. We say y'all will be able to grow bitter ball and pepper. You understand that last year we imported almost $7 million of pepper from Guinea? Are you trying to tell me that the people of Liberia can no longer grow pepper? If we go to Bassa, we go to Sino, we go.
So as you speak now, are people not growing pepper?
They're not growing it enough.
Okay.
They are growing pepper.
So to make them to grow it enough, what would be your strategy? How will you do
The
it?
first thing you need to do is introduce mechanized farming into Liberia.
Mm.
We are in 2023, and we are farming. We are farming like it's 1823. Right now, we go to the villages, not even the villages, just go 1-2 hours outside Monrovia. You will see people walking with hook in their hands.
So how much are you going to invest into the agriculture sector?
You know what? The first thing we have to understand is that the budget of Liberia cannot transform Liberia's agriculture sector. It's impossible. We need over $700 million to invest in the agriculture sector if we truly want to become a self-food producing.
So let's assume we have Clarence Moniba now as the president, who's is king on the sector, wanted to introduce mechanized farming for everybody to be able to get involved into agriculture. What are you going to get the resources from? Because you said your budget will not be able to fund the agriculture sector.
That's why it's so important to be able to elect a leader who can walk into any room in the world and be able to negotiate on behalf of the Liberian people. Like I said, I'm very proud of the background I have in terms of negotiating for the people of Liberia.
We'll talk more about your negotiation. How did it impact this country? We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make,
because you continue to maybe, if I put it that way, grandstand on negotiation. But it seems like you have the skills. You don't have the skills. So we'll talk about that later on. But
we have to talk about it now because you asked me the question:
how are you going to grant it?
Bring money into the country? I expect to be able to bring money into the country because I have a skill set in negotiating with the World Bank and other institutions, bilateral.
So let's assume you stand before the World Bank now. How do you negotiate with them to get the millions of dollars you want or billions of dollars you want?
Hundreds of millions of dollars. Let me even give you an example. If we move off of agriculture, we need over $2.5 billion to build all of the roads and connect all of the rural county capitals in Liberia.
A lot of money. How are you going to get it? If you went to negotiate, what's the strategy? Why are you going to tell the people, maybe make the money available and I'd sell my country to you if I can pay?
There's several reasons to be able to do it. But the first thing that people do, and what we don't understand, is that the first thing people do when they look to invest in the country, money is not the problem in the world. In Liberia, money is a problem. But on the world stage, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars for a nation is not an issue. The problem we have in this country is a couple of things. But the international community, if they do not have trust in the leadership of a country, money becomes very hard to get. That's the first thing. Secondly, as a leader, you have to be able to stand.
So you have that quality of trust.
We have that quality because again, we've been blessed to have done it before. More importantly, we've been able to do it with a clean record and clean character.
Now, talking about clean record and clean character, talking about your skills in negotiating and all of that, how true is it, Mr. Moniba, that when you were overseeing the Liberian Electricity Corporation, $1 billion was invested into electricity, and only 30% or 10% of our people, in fact, benefited?
Well, I mean, first, it wasn't $1 billion per se.
$1 billion per se.
Yeah, it wasn't $1 billion per se.
It wasn't, or it was?
It was not.
It was not. What was it?
During my time, I will tell you exactly what we
Let's go ahead.
When I was chairman of LIC. So the $250 million that was used for Mount Coffee Hydro, we were successfully able to negotiate that. And so when you start to talk about the 10%, the idea of Mount Coffee, I need to tell the people of Liberia, Mount Coffee is step 1 of 100. Nobody expected Mount Coffee to be able to electrify the entire country. Mount Coffee is not going to electrify homes in Sino County. Simply because of two reasons. The first thing people understand and need to understand is that we need to bring in more money for transmission and distribution, which is also what we did when we negotiated with the European Union and the European Bank, $60 million to connect all of the homes from Mamba Point towards Painesville. But again, that is not all of Liberia. So that's why it's so important for people to understand.
So how much was invested when you were overseeing the LEC? How much? Because we understand and we heard that $1 billion was pumped into that.
Once again, $250 million went towards Mount Coffee. $250 million, which was negotiated with the U.S. government, with the Germans, with the Norwegians, with the World Bank. So it
was not what, $1 billion?
Hey man, Let me go through phases.
Okay.
So I don't listen. I don't want to just throw out a number here. I want to be very detailed. If you're going to ask a detailed
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
So the $250 million, which was negotiated, and I don't want the Liberian people to think that all the money came here. The money went from the World Bank directly to Germany, where we were able to build the turbines. The money went to different institutions around the world where they brought in the materials. At no point was $250 million sitting in any bank account for LEC. So that was 250. In addition to the Mount Coffee Hydro, which is, sometimes people talk about the quality of Mount Coffee Hydro. It's, when you look at the machinery that we use for Mount Coffee Hydro, it is one of the top companies in the world, which was insisted on by our international partners. Sometimes people can say, oh, but Guinea did that for cheaper. Yes, Guinea did that for cheaper. But when you look at the quality of it, it's completely different. So for us, it was insisted, and we negotiated that we would get Andritz and Voice, which is the top companies in the world for hydropower electricity. So that's what we did. We negotiated with the international partners to do that.
Now, with all the negotiation, Mr. Clarence Moniba, why went wrong that yes, you continue to break off your negotiation skills and money scheme into the okay, you continue to speak about your negotiation skills and money came in when you were overseeing LEC. What went wrong that electricity couldn't be cheaper than what it is now?
When we took over, when I started to work on the board of LEC, it was 55 cents per kilowatt hour. We were successfully able to, by the time we left, it was down to 33 cents per kilowatt hour, and then companies and factories were at 20 cents. But it's still high. What went
So do you know what it is? What is it now?
No, I honestly don't know.
Oh, you don't know.
Honestly, don't know exactly what
it's far below the 20 cents you're making reference to.
Oh, but then thank God, because that was the whole plan and process. The plan is that once you continue to invest in LEC, the prices go down.
So it means that with all of the negotiation you did when you were at the LEC, you didn't successfully achieve what you wanted to achieve. By 100-fold, you didn't.
Well, first of all, what we set out to achieve was to ensure that Mount Coffee was working and providing electricity to the people of Liberia. We did that. What we also set out to achieve, when you talk about LEC, and let's even make it bigger, is the fact that we need transmission and distribution lines for the people of Liberia. I don't care how much Mount Coffee does, if you cannot get electricity to the people's homes, then you are failing. We're able to negotiate tens of millions of dollars, but that's why to destroy a country and fight a war is bad.
So do you agree, Mr. Moniba, that when you were overseeing the LEC, electricity was not in the homes, in the homes and hundreds of homes that electricity is now in? Do you agree with that?
When you say
when you were overseeing the LEC,
so I don't want to turn this into an LEC.
I'm just the one place the reason why I'm talking about LEC is because it's one of the areas that you continue to speak of your negotiation skills, and which skills will be transferred to leading the country so that you can get economy out of that.
On to your answers. Okay, because when I talk, then you jump in.
No. I'm giving you time to
Thank
speak.
you very much.
Yes.
The idea is, let me be very clear.
So the question I asked, is that the question you're about to answer to?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
We have to be very clear.
Surely.
The government of Liberia right now, this administration has not negotiated any new electricity into this country. Let's be clear. The CLSG that was dedicated in December, we broke ground on that in June of 2017. So no electricity that has come into this country since 2018 is new. That was not negotiated by the previous administration. Let's be clear. Even the connections right now, the connections that are being done currently were also negotiated, and part of the $60 million that was used by the EU. Yes, new monies have started to come in, but let's be clear, the generation of electricity in Liberia is from two things. The CLSG, which was negotiated in 2016, 2017, and the Mount Coffee Hydro.
So you agree with me that negotiation is just one thing, and the actualization of the negotiation is another thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, granted. Now, so let's talk about your vision. You only spoke about few areas. Talk about agriculture. Let's move forward.
So we are clear that every single county in this country must become a food producing zone. Must become, like I said, Lofa, those western counties will be producing enough rice to feed the people of Liberia. Nimba, you go to Grand Jide, you assume that cocoa and cassava, things of that nature will be grown. You go around, every single county must contribute to the food security of Liberia. That's one. The second thing is when you look at our schools, we are sending children to school who can barely.
So that's a vision in education also.
In education.
Fine.
But when we come to education, we need to be able to graduate high school seniors who can who have 2 years of technical and vocational training. Right now in Liberia, we are graduating high school seniors who can barely read and write. So when you talked about the old woman in Grand Jide or Grand Cape Mount, as you
why will you speak disparagingly about your education sector in your own country, a country that you want to lead?
Hold on. Are you saying that Liberia has a great education sector? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking. You said many of the students. No, you said many of the students don't know how to read and write. They're graduating and not knowing how to read and write. So, why would you want to be disparaging about your own education sector in the country that you want to rule and lead? That's the country I'm asking.
Let me say this, okay? Let me say this, and I'm being very honest with you. I don't like how you're trying to put words in my mouth.
Oh, you see that? No, I'm just trying to interview you, that's all.
I know you interview me, but you are doing it in a negative connotation.
How?
Don't do that.
How?
Let's talk about the issues.
You indicated, no, Mr. Moniba, you can just throw words or throw sentences and I sit there and I don't, if there's a need to enter there, I come in there. You said that many of the students in the education sector are graduating not knowing how to read and write.
Is it not true?
And then I ask you a question.
Is it not true?
What's the statistics? What's the basis on which you are making this assertion?
My basis? First of all, let me ask you, is it not true that people are struggling to read and write? That the level of education in this country is low. The problem we have in this country is that we don't want to address the true problems. You are sitting here telling me right now that our education sector is up to par with Ghana, it's up to par with Nigeria. Don't do that. Let's be very honest and fair with the people of Liberia.
So the education sector is poor, is that what you're saying?
It's not working for the Liberian people.
It's not working?
It's not. It's not. You go to any typical school.
So then let me ask, has it been before or is during this administration?
It has been before and now.
Okay.
It has always been this way. You go to a typical school right now and they do not have a library. What are they learning? I spoke at a school 2 weeks ago. They are only the third school that has public school that has computers. We are in the 21st century. We don't have the typical computers in classrooms. What are they learning? There's no science lab in the schools. What are they learning?
You are serving in the government. I'm coming. Yes, I agree. You said it because the sector is not. You said the sector is not encouraging. No, you made your points. You made your points. You said the sector. You said the sector is not encouraging. Is it so? No, I'm not dominating. You said the sector is not encouraging. Is it so? Right? The education sector. There are students who are graduating and not reading. Are you aware?
Get to the policies of what I want to do.
I'm coming now. Are you aware that there is a free education policy that never been in existence before?
Free education is not worth quality education. You need to stop making that mistake. If I give you something free but it doesn't work, you still want it? No. We are trying to transform and change this country.
Now, how do you speak about the education sector when you served in the government? I'm coming, Chief.
And in that time, the education ministry also, if you remember, I'm not here to defend the previous administration. I'm here to talk about myself.
No, you served in administration, so there's absolutely no way that you can share the blames in administration.
Remember what was said at that time?
That the education sector was a mess.
It has been a mess, and it continues to be a mess. What we need to do, if you allow me to get to my policies, is that everybody who is graduating from high school must have 2 years of technical and vocational training. If we do that, then we will cover up the lapses of the education sector, because to change the education sector in Liberia is not going to take 1 year or 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. The most important period of anybody's educational career or life is from first grade to fifth grade. That's when we have to be able to build the foundation of everybody. So if we miss that, which we are missing, again, let's not deny the fact that all of the schools, or most of the schools, we have students who are sitting down unattached, don't even have blackboard.
Where?
What do you mean where? All over.
No, I'm asking where. Where all
There
over?
you go.
No, it's. I mean, it's
in my home village of Gema. Are doing so. That's one perfect example.
You got pictorial evidence that I can see now you went there before?
I've been there. Please don't do
that. No, you got pictorial evidence? I don't mean you could display that and the camera could pick that up.
I didn't bring the pictorial evidence with me.
Oh, you didn't bring it?
People of Liberia who are listening, they know it. Except they're not living in Liberia. Except you're not living in Liberia.
Okay.
So we know for a fact.
So what sort of interventions are you going to make now so that the sector can be better, in your own words?
So that's where it comes to when we graduate people from high school, they must have 2 years of technical and vocational training. You have to be able to, you have to be able to allow me to get to the point. To transform Liberia's educational sector is going to take decades to do. We have to retrain most, if not all, of the teachers who are teaching primary education in this country. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 time fix. And again, let's admit that most of the schools in this country, at least the ones I've gone to, which have been dozens, they do not have science labs. They do not have libraries. Some of them don't have blackboards. There's no school fees.
No, this is the concern that men will have, Mr. Moniba. Yes, you have all the good ideas and your vision for education is good. We agree with you, but you served in an administration in which the education sector was described as a mess. And you were very influential. You were very close to the president at the time, close to the power that be, and there was no transformation. How sure are we that if Moniba is now leading this country, we're going to see exactly what he's talking about?
First, stop trying to make me education minister, please. Stop.
But you are close to the president at the time.
That's like me saying you lived in.
I mean, you had the ability to help in order to understand the vision or whatever the ideas you had.
Your style of interview, it cannot get to any point. To be frank with you, because you continue to cut in. You don't allow
the point is, I asked you a question, sir. I know you say a lot you want to say about my style of interview. I don't have a problem with that. But I asked you the question. You said the sector is bad. Are you saying I'm coming, sir. I'm coming, sir. You are close to the president and very influential. But you couldn't help to change the sector. The sector was messy under the administration that you served. How sure are we, that's the question that people are asking now, how sure are we that if Moniba is leading this country, the education sector will be improved?
My sector was infrastructure development. If you allow me, I would tell you what I did in infrastructure development. Do not say, oh, we blame education on you. Don't do that. It's not being fair to me and it's not being fair to the people of Liberia. That's why I talked about your style of interview. Even when we talk about the policies that we want to include in the education sector. If you allow me to land, then you will understand the vision.
You spoke on how you visited schools, you visited the country, and some of the schools are, they are people, students are sitting on a touch and all of that. So you've spoken. The question I'm asking, sir,
is how do we fix it? That's what we should be talking about.
It's not how do we fix it. Also, what is it? Why are you quoting help at the time? Because we were very influential.
Did I not
close to the president then?
Not answer once, twice, and 3 times that I was not education minister?
Is that the answer?
The question, yes.
So when you felt comfortable, I'm coming now. I'm coming, sir. You felt comfortable serving in a government where the education sector was a mess. Is that what you're saying? Because you are not education minister?
Listen.
I'm listening.
Please, no, you're not.
No, I'm listening to you.
No, you're not. You're not.
I told you we have been friendly, right?
No, this is not being, you're not trying to.
We are friendly now.
No, we are friendly, fine.
Okay, go ahead.
But what you are doing is the reason why Liberia would never progress.
What am I doing?
What you are doing is the reason why people do not talk policies. People do not talk solutions. You're trying to put me in this combative stance to stand here and defend the previous administration. I'm here to defend what I have done. I don't care what you say or how you try to turn this. There are good Liberians who work in this administration. There are good Liberians who served in Ellis administration. There are good Liberians who served in Taylor and Dole and Torber's administration. So do not try to pigeonhole anybody to be able to say, oh, you served in this administration, so you failed, which is what you're trying to do. I'm not going to let you. 1. Two, if you want to talk about the policies that I want to do as leader of this country, we can do so. But in order to do so, you cannot continue to butt in every 2 minutes, which is what you're doing.
I didn't ask you about your. Listen, Chief. I did ask you. I did ask you about your vision in education. You stated that already, right? You stated that already.
Turn this into almost like an argument, which is very unfortunate. I've done hundreds of interviews and it's never derived to this point.
Because there's no jobs and nobody was there to ask you to explain more about what you're saying. So I'm not that sort of interviewer, no?
Chief, you're not allowing me.
Okay, so you've done with education now. You said you make sure to better the education sector.
No, I didn't say I would make sure to better the education.
Okay, what did you say?
I said was very specific, that we will ensure that everybody graduating from high school will have 2 years of technical and vocational training.
Okay.
While we take, it's going to take years.
Okay.
To rebuild the foundation of the schools of Liberia, which includes school feeding programs. We have to be very clear on that. The children of Liberia are not going to learn when they are sitting there hungry.
Okay.
The teachers are not going to teach when they haven't gotten paid in 3 or 4 months. These are things when we want to.
Is that a reality now?
That's the absolute reality.
Teachers are not getting paid for 3 to 4 months?
Not everybody.
How sure are we? At the end of the day, when I ask you, you say I'm trying to be combative. Is that the reality, Mr. Presidential aspirant?
I would like
that teachers have not taken pay for 3-4 months.
I would like for people to call in.
No, we'll open the lines. We're sure we'll open the lines. So we will open the lines.
I would like for teachers who have not.
Because you've been disingenuous here to indicate that teachers are not taking pay for 3 to 4 months.
Civil servants have also gotten paid, huh?
For 3 to 4 months? They haven't yet?
2 to 3 months, 1 to 2 months, whatever the case is.
You sound so interesting. Okay, so let's talk about investment. Let's talk about investment. You sound so interesting.
No, I'm very interested. But what's
okay, so funny? So let's talk about investment.
This is, again, I will continue to say it.
No, but this is why
Nigeria will not continue to move, because people like you get on the air and try to make fun of the development and future of Liberia.
No, but when you say that teachers are not taking 3 or 4 months, it's laughable. You know what I'm saying? This is interesting.
Servants have not get paid constantly. Are you saying that every month, people get paid? Is that what you're saying? Yes or no question? Oh, I want. Yes or
the
no?
reality is people get paid every month.
Every month.
Yes. So nobody. That's the reality. So if you come up to say, no, we're not talking about lateness now. You said people are not taking pay for 3 to 4 months. Teachers are not taking.
They don't get paid for 1 or 2 months. Is that getting paid?
Okay, so let's talk about your investment policy. Let's talk about investment policy. We'll talk about that later on. Let's talk about your investment policy. How are you going to bring in investors in the country?
The reason why this conversation has derived to this is simply because, once again, you have.
Let's start throwing jobs. I'm asking you a question now. Let's talk about, because you indicated here that teachers are not taking pay 3 to 4 months, and I said that was laughable.
If you allow me,
let's talk about investment. Let's talk about investment.
When you ask the question, you have to be.
Okay, I'm asking you now. Let's talk about investment, sir.
Okay, investment. In what manner you want to talk about?
No, I'm sure when you are elected as president, one of your key priority will be to create jobs and all of that. So how do you bring in investors as well to help you?
We talked about agriculture. The only way we're going to increase the level of jobs in this country is if we focus on the agriculture sector.
Okay,
that's the first thing. And it's not necessarily to say everybody in Liberia will become farmers. The field of agriculture has so many different things. So that's one thing we have to be able to do. But two, what we have to be able to do is, if we're talking about the development of Liberia, we have to do it district by district.
Okay.
We have to be able to focus on how we can ensure that there are industries and factories in every single district in Liberia. The mistake we continue to make is that we look at the whole country and we say, oh, there's investment coming into the country. But what we are not answering is if there are any factories going into District 3, District 4, District 5. We have to be able to look at Liberia's investment sector district by district, because that's where the people live. So we have to be able to look at it in that terminology, in that fashion.
Okay. So can we look at your policy, maybe, if I could put a regulation, whatever it is, in the fight against corruption when you will be leading this country?
The fight against corruption in Liberia, the issue and the challenge we have with Liberia is that people are expected. Liberians almost expect people to be corrupt. And we do it and we answer it by how we respond. When somebody steals money, what do we say? That a man time to eat. Liberia, that elephant meat. These are things that we do. These are the mistakes that we do. In Liberia, when somebody steals or gets accused of money, instead of them being prosecuted, instead of them going to court to prove their innocence, they go get elected, to go run for office.
Okay.
We have to be able to change that mindset in this country. What we have to be able to do and insist on is that anybody who steals or is accused of stealing Liberian people's money, they have to be able to go to court and prove their innocence. If they are found guilty, they must go to jail and they must restitute that money. There's no way you can say, I stole $100,000. You go to jail for 6 months, you come out and $100,000 waiting for you.
Okay.
We have to be able to do it in this sense. If you go to jail, you have to be able to pay back that money, or your property, your businesses will be seized.
Okay.
The reason why corruption is so bad in Liberia is because nobody goes to jail for corruption in this country. We have to change that if we want to change the way we approach corruption.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important when we talk about corruption. We cannot support it. Again, the Liberian people, I'm telling you, we support corruption by saying what we say.
Okay.
That elephant meat, that embezzlement, you'll be the man. I'm the only person who has stolen. If we continue to do that, corruption will continue to be excused in our society and we will not continue to gain. So all these things we're talking about agriculture sector, we're talking about investment in Liberia, we're talking about strengthening the education policies and schools in Liberia. It's not going to happen if we allow corruption to continue.
Okay. If we allow corruption to continue. So let's hear from you also about healthcare. Are you going to ensure that that is improved?
Healthcare is the unfortunate thing we have in Liberia is the fact that when somebody gets sick, they would rather leave the country and go to Ghana, Ivory Coast, India, Europe, America, than go to JFK. But the question I then have is how many people in Liberia can afford a plane ticket to leave the country? Not many. So because of that, what we have to be able to do is to ensure that JFK and Tapita Hospital, two of our major regional hospitals, are some of the two best in West Africa, so that we can encourage Ghanaians to come to Liberia.
Okay.
We also need to be jealous as well. Again, I talk about the mindset of our people. We have to elevate it.
Okay.
I was in Ghana right before the presidential elections.
Okay.
And while there, I was on one of the major highways, and the taxi driver actually talked about the disappointment he had in his country while we on one of the best highways roads in West Africa. The point I'm trying to make is that the fact that if we continue to allow JFK to be the JFK that we have, or the medical system, a few weeks ago, one of our volunteers, she got sick, malaria, they rushed her to the hospital. 2 hours later, at 1 a.m, she called me and said they were going on their way back home. I said, why? She said there was no electricity and mosquitoes were eating.
Where is that? JFK?
No, not this was not JFK.
Okay.
No, it was not JFK. Or another situation, and I always talk about it. One of my family members got sick. Thank God I had a car, a vehicle. We took them to 4 hospitals before we were able to find a bed. So the issue of healthcare in this country is, honestly, we really need to look at that in every sense of the matter. But the first thing we need to do is to ensure that every district, I talked about making sure that factories and industries go to districts. We need to develop Liberia through the district model.
Okay. Now let me ask you, if you were to allot to healthcare during your leadership, how much you think?
You know, I honestly, I don't know or remember what is being allotted to healthcare right now.
Okay.
But I do know, obviously, it's not enough. Whatever it is, it's not enough. So that's why if we're going to change Liberia in the near-term future, we have to get leaders. We have to get people who understand the international system, who has the energy and ability to go all around the world and resource money. Liberia is not going to be developed by the money and the resources we have in this country. Let me give you an example. To truly transform JFK, in 2015, 2016, when we did the assessment to see if we could source the money to truly transform JFK into a true regional hospital, how it used to be back in the 60s and 70s, it was estimated to be $57 to $58 million to transform JFK.
Okay.
That was about 6, 7, 8 years ago. So now just imagine, I'm assuming it's about $70 million. Because of how the current budget is in Liberia, it's going to be impossible to take $70 million and develop JFK. So because of that, we have to be able to look for outside sourcing and resources. That's why it's so important that we get leaders who have the ability to go around and negotiate. That's why I keep going back to the fact of negotiations.
Okay.
Liberia is too small a country right now for us to be able to develop this country without pulling in outside resources. That's why, again, the international community looks at the type of leaders.
So then how do you attract them to listen to you?
You attract them, again, that's why it goes back to the ability to be able to understand how they work. Like I said, I'm proud to say I've worked as a consultant to the World Bank. The ability to be able to go to the World Bank, understand their processes, understand what they want to hear, and understand what you need as a country is very critical and very key. To be able to sit down and negotiate with these people, some of these people who I've gone to school with, and so I understand how they think. So that's why, again, the leadership of this country cannot be based on popularity. It cannot be based on the fact that this person has been here for a long time running in office or something, so we have to give it to them.
Okay.
It has to now be based on the policies, their qualifications, their ability to transform this country.
Let's really hear from you concerning foreign relations, and then we actually, last question, we'll open the lines quickly.
Foreign relations, when you look at foreign relations, we have to be very clear how we want to engage different countries. We have to turn it into economic foreign relations. The first thing we have to be able to do is what I would do is cancel visas to come to Liberia.
Okay.
We need to make Liberia a country that is open for everybody. It should not be difficult for somebody to come to Liberia. So we will cancel the visa process and system in Liberia. You want to come to Liberia, you get 24-hour notice. We check your background. You come to Liberia. You start spending your money in Liberia. That's the first thing. When it comes to foreign relations, we have to be able to look at countries that have developed in their own strengths. So Germany, for example, is one of the best countries in the world, second to none, for technical and vocational training. What we have to be able to do from foreign relations is, as president, you go to the German chancellor and say, I need you to help me build 2 or 3 of some of the best technical vocational training facilities in Liberia, not just in Monserrado. You go build one in Nimba. You go build one in the southeast. So you build key ones around the country. So when you talk about foreign relations, we have to be able to identify the strengths of a different country. Let's look at Norway, for example. Norway is one of the best countries in the world for fishery. We have to be able to go and sit with them and be able to tell them, listen, we need you to send trainers so they can train our trainers and provide us equipment so that we can be self-sufficient in terms of fishery and aquaculture. We have to be able to produce fish here and be able to export. This is the way that people need to be able to think.
Now, you have a couple of individuals in the race for the presidency of this country, including you. We have some other politicians who've been around, like who spent 40 years or 40 plus years in public service, like the ambassador Joseph Imaboyaka, Cummings, and the rest of them. What does stand you apart from the rest of all the other people?
The first thing I want to be clear about is that I think it's time for generational change in our country. 85% of the people in Liberia are under the age of 45. But I'm not telling people to vote for me because I'm 44 years old. No, I'm telling people to look at my background, my qualifications, my history, and then be able to understand that who would change this country will be our generation. We must ensure that our generation is the greatest generation in Liberia. But in order to do that, it can't just be by mouth. We cannot leave Liberia how the people before us, our fathers and mothers and aunties and uncles before us, have left Liberia. Like I said when I first started talking, the Liberia we have right now is not good enough for us. We must demand better. But in order to do so, we need a changing of the guard. And that's why I'm running, to represent my generation so people can understand, the people of Liberia can understand that there are still good people in Liberia who want to see good for this country, and that our generation, the 85% of the people in this country who make up the majority of the country, we are not only prepared to lead, but we are going to lead.
Now, let's assume that you ran for the presidency maybe tomorrow and you didn't succeed. What will be the next action?
There's no next action. I'm here. I'm in Liberia. I have no property outside of Liberia. I have no business outside of Liberia. All of my investments is in Liberia. All of my life is in Liberia.
And so if you were offered a job at a window, will you take it?
I don't, we have a foundation, Moniba Foundation. We are working on making that one of the biggest in the country. We are going to focus on that. We are going to continue to focus on that, win or lose.
So you were not taking an offer by the window?
I don't want to sit here and say yes or no, but honestly, it's not appealing to me right now. I've been offered jobs, by this administration. I've been blessed again to have offered a few weeks ago, I was offered a very good job out of the country. My intention right now is to build our political party, Liberian National Union, to be one of the, the top parties in the country. And my aim is to also be able to build the Moniba Foundation to be one of the top in the country.
0776, that's the alternative line. 0776 540-987, or better still, 0880-514-096. That's the numbers to call, and you are live on the SMS this morning. Let me take this first caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Papa.
How would I tell people to call? Hey, Moniba, why you be accusing me of this? How would I open separate lines for people to call again? Yeah, man. Okay, no problem. Just go ahead, Mama. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Rosa Sangari, and I live in District number 6, where Moniba is done. And when you first started on the show, it never sounded well. As someone who worked in the past begins. Yes, you live with him.
Change your location, please. Just change your location a bit. Hello?
Well,
yeah, while you're standing on setting, just leave from there a bit.
Coming in, Clarence.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, ma.
Yes. So, conscience on the way he's going with where he retired, and he served as Minister of State in the Manchester. And we have to say, in just about one day, say you want to become president, you want to continue the state administration. No, it doesn't work like that. Do something because we are happy to say anything as a former Minister of State, or then I retire within the resident of the state. Thank you for the money.
Okay, man, thank you. Let's take this caller. Good morning. Good morning.
What I like to do.
Good morning. I be Sabo.
After every 2 or 3.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
What? I'm from Jigotan District number 2. Yes, Sabo. I want to say good morning to Dr. Moniba. Oh, Dr. Moniba, the interview, the interviewer, you couldn't get this. When a man action has thing for to follow say your agenda, I would have ruled this country. But you also accusing someone when he asks questions, you're accusing someone I thank you so much for your interview. You are very mature.
Okay.
It was an interviewer, they had identity off.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are listening to the radio. We are accusing them, and you don't feel that in a public.
Thank you. Thank you. You made a point. You made a point already. I think we better take notes. Let me give you. Okay. Yes, go ahead. You want to respond to the bit, but I wanted you to take notes and then later on you respond to the callers. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. So the idea is this. Okay. So the guy who talked about the interview, and that's why it was very unfortunate the fact of the back and forth. The issue is when you're on these interviews, and I'll be very clear with everybody. When you're on these interviews, you have to be very clear what you want to say to the people of Liberia. So in this case, we are talking about policies. If we are talking about policies, you cannot afford to be linked to things that you should not be taking responsibility for.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be very clear on that.
Okay.
When it comes to the lady who was talking about District 6, I don't think she understands the very nature of what a Minister of State does, or somebody who oversees infrastructure development. The very ERWA road, the Coca-Cola road that is being built right now, was secured under our office that has not been completed yet. So when we talk about what we have been able to do in this country, I'm very proud of all of the activities I've done in this country, which include the new airport terminal, where I was led the team to negotiate the money that was secured to build the new airport terminal, the ERW to Coca-Cola Road, the Lofa Road that's being constructed right now. We're able to help with the negotiations of that. I talked about Mount Coffee. We oversaw the implementation of the White Plains Water Facility plant. So what we were doing at the ministerial level was to develop Liberia.
Okay. Many thanks. Let me take this caller quickly. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's hear from you quickly.
I think what we expect is that the national station journalists, from that station should play a neutral role. But from what I see this morning, I didn't really, notice that from your interview.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what I noticed about you this morning.
Okay, you made your point already. That's why you noticed something this morning. Let's take another caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Thank you. Please, I wish you could be patient with me.
you are our friend and you are a professional journalist in this country. But with all sincerity this morning, Dr. Moniba kept erecting checkpoint. The way you engaged in it was so harsh, let's be frank. But let's crash that. Dr. Moniba, I want to know from you, all of you have a brilliant idea as the son of this country, wanting to leave Liberia. But my disappointment is, with the proliferations of the various political parties, everyone wants to become president at the same time. How are you people going to make Liberia better when all of you are so eager to become president of Liberia? Instead of you coming together with all your better ideas to work to make Liberia better. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks. Let me take this caller on the line. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, so much, Josh.
Yeah, let's hear from you quickly.
Yeah, actually, I don't really understand what the candidate says here there. Because he wanted a woman, and then he tried to stop the woman and want a friend. I should not love me. At the end of the day, when a friend will go, then he pass and the husband will approach a woman that want you.
Okay.
Going still there. But he always has to scrapping the citizen in the country, how we know nothing, go to school, we know nothing, and everything. But you want a president of this country. And you try to ask how can you do it? But there for the past 12 years, you saw all these ills.
Okay. Okay. You made your point. Let me take this other caller, please. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Oh, this call is not ready. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, whatever. I got one question for you. You sound for all the projects that are currently being implemented. Are you satisfied with the implementation, or do you got what is missing? If so.
Okay. Satisfied with what?
What are you satisfied with the projects or what? Okay. Okay, let me take this call quickly. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good
morning, Mama.
How are you, Pa?
I'm okay.
I'm just changing this name. You know, our people want to come in this country here. This last money will not win the election because they're not there to president. We are what we are doing in this country. Because Liberia will not know where. Someone will not know where some children learn. They say education was bad. They don't know how to read and write. And you were there before president. We are come. You what I do before. So someone else will not win because they had a better than in a half because president where is the president in the country. Everybody is able to say thank you. They criticize it. They will not do better. So a better president where we need there. They are going to another level. Quarter we will go for it. All that are there they get. And they keep it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
because
Mama.
you know they don't do justice to the mayor. They are all ungrateful. That's another man that's saying that he ruled this country here. The thing that he seen you, he see it before. Why you can't say, oh, thank God. He press somebody, you mean that you'll not be beat up, but press the person. Once here, you press a name, you press God to great you. Press the person will do good for you. Look at that before we the person will go to the mail to work for. Who's often will see what they need for in the country.
Okay. Let me take two more calls and then to wrap up with two. Let me take two more calls quickly, please. Let me take two more calls. Okay, this caller is gone. Let me take this other caller. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, President George, and good morning to our students.
Yes, sir.
My name is David Garagowise, and I joined this morning from the headquarters of the Bagubay Avenue in the community. Honestly, Mr. George, those are opposition brothers need to be very honest whenever they are coming to public platforms. You know, before you criticize somebody, you got to look at the real issue. They say they still get said that free education that has been provided to the Liberian people, you know, is substandard or is not up to standard. But when you provide those kind of services, no, those services were nice. Even if you say they are substandard, first of all, appreciate them. When you appreciate those services, then you can go ahead with whatever criticism you want to attach to them. So I just want to say, let us be appreciated in that field. Thank you for putting me in the opportunity.
Okay, many thanks, many thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
My name is Albert Cole, and I call from Spainsville. I'd like to know from Dr. Moniba. He, international figure in the international circle, well, in the national communities. I'd like to know, can he tell us Liberian how is the international community grading us as to respect to how we are conducting ourselves, whether they are pleased or not pleased with us, so that we can know, we can learn a lesson from them.
Okay. Let me take this last caller then. We'll wrap it up. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm listening to you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir, and good morning to Dr. Moniba. This is the voice of Samuel Kara Johnson. I speak to you for peace here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let me say thank you this morning. But so, I think you said to Dr. Moniba that he's been disingenuous to the Liberian people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the funny manner in which the interview has been conducted this morning, I think you have been more disingenuous to the Liberian people. You have behaving as a in this country.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody says to you, somebody that people in this country barely reach around, it does not necessarily mean that they do not understand anything about reading and writing. It's living reality. He may have only his contribution to society, his contribution when he was in government. And you want to tell them, Madam Salib administration, and you work at ERBC just to conclude something. Now you are presenting a talk show. So if somebody misbehaves in the news department, should we attribute that to someone just because he worked at ERBC? I think it is very genius for your part this morning. Thank you very much.
Okay, many thanks. You made a point. Let me take this last caller quickly. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, okay. Let me take this caller from this line. Good morning. This last caller. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, it seems this caller is not ready. Good morning. Okay. So let me go back to the guest now to respond quickly, and then we'll take leave of you.
What I would like to make clear is because what I want to make clear is the fact that we have to understand when you are identifying a problem, it does not mean you are criticizing the people of Liberia. So I don't know where that intention gets from, but I think, and that's why that's why I didn't like your style of questioning, because you tried to make me seem like I was blaming the Liberian people. We are blaming a system that we all say we are not happy with in terms of Liberia. If any Liberian sits here and say they are happy with the state of Liberia right now, they are not being fair to us. They are not being fair to their own country. The country we have right now is hurting. The country we have right now is suffering. The schools in this country, let's be very fair, are not at the level of even Sierra Leone, let alone Ghana and other places. Our effort has to be able to raise the standards. We are inputting 60 to 70% of the food that the people in Liberia eat. Therefore, we already understand and know that the agriculture sector is not good enough. When people get sick in Liberia, whether they're in government or they got their private money, they leave Liberia and go to India, they go to Europe. It's not good enough for the typical person who's living in Bassa or in Cape Mount or wherever the case is. If we are going to transform this country, we have to be very clear and open to where the state of our country is right now.
Okay.
Liberia is going to be a great country one day, but today, let's admit it. The country that we have is not good enough for anybody in Liberia. We need to do better. We need to raise our standards, not only for leadership, but in all of our individual lives. And so what we have to be able to do, no matter who you want to support or vote for, because I know if one or two people go and say, well, criticizing Weir, never once did you ever hear me say Weir's name here. We need to look at the system of Liberia and understand that the system of Liberia, we deserve better. Every single Liberian deserves better. And
Okay.
that's why we are running for president.
Okay. Many thanks. We really appreciate the time with you this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is just our go home of this presentation of the Super Morning Show. That's Jonas Moore. I'm sure my indefatigable producer, Melvin Stewart, will be around tomorrow to drive the ship. Until then, there's no second chance for